So I'm Kenya Gibson sitting in for Richard Gearhart, founder of Gearhart Law, a full service trademark and IP law firm.
And I'm Elizabeth Gearhart, not a lawyer, but I do marketing for Gearhart Law. We do patents too. And I have my own startup. So we're going to be hosting the show today. Richard got back from Mexico at 2 a.m. and is trying to catch up on many other things except his sleep.
And here we are.
And here we are.
We're going to have a really good show today because we have Tim S. Marshall, who is a motivational speaker, an author, a life coach. He's written more than 7 books. So really excited to speak with him today. And we have Marcella Gencarelli, who is a client engagement and community outreach strategist. So super show on the way.
Right. They're going to tag team our guest spot, which I'm very excited about. And then we have 2 kind of food products, which who doesn't love food? Obviously I do. So we have Kerry Brown with Gangster, eatgangster.com. And I love her stuff. It's good. She sent me some samples. It's delicious. And she is helping people that have food intolerances to be able to eat something that tastes good. So you want to hear more about what she has. And then we have Sirisha Munagala with Tezahn, Tezahn. So I know we're all told you need to drink more water, but how boring is water? Well, not if you drink what she makes. So we're really excited to hear about her water flavors. So that will be our show. But before we get started, normally we would do IP in the news, but since Kenya and I are both marketing, we're going to do a marketing minute. So Kenya, what should we talk about?
So today we're going to talk about authenticity. And I'm glad that you picked this as a marketing topic because in one of my brand integration meetings the other day, this was like the new tagline going into 2023. Authenticity is the new currency when it comes to all things marketing.
That's interesting. And why is that, do you think? I mean, do you think people are just tired of getting conned by people all the time?
You know what I think? I think COVID taught us a lot about like just how to connect to people on a real level. Like we all like had the same plethora of problems, or at least things that we could connect to similarly with the pandemic. Like it was an even playing field, right? Mm-hmm. So no one was able to really escape it. And I think it allowed us to prioritize and really like re-engage with people in a real way. And I got to tell you, I think it got a lot of people out of the whole celebrity brain of comparing themselves to celebrities or looking up to celebrities. And I think people just see a value now in connecting to real people, which is why authenticity now is going to be the new currency when it comes to anything marketing and branding related.
I agree. And I think the other piece of the authenticity part is that people seem a little more willing now to tell their stories and tell some of the painful parts of their stories, whereas before maybe we weren't. But I find people opening up more with some of the challenges that they've had to overcome. And that goes a long way towards seeing their authentic selves, right?
Mm-hmm. I agree. Even for me, there was something, and I don't know if a lot of people know this about me. I'm not sure if I even talked about it on the show, but I was a teen mom, right? And it was something that I was not proud of for a long time because I think society just makes you feel like you're downcast and you're judge. And it was something I wouldn't share because I didn't want people to think less of me, but it's something now that I totally embrace because I've been able to get to the other side of that. My son is 23 now. He's a college graduate. He's like a super person. And he was really the best choice that I ever made. Right. So it's I don't have to be ashamed of that. Right. It's not something that I necessarily recommend for young women because it was certainly hard and it had its challenges, but it's something that I've learned to embrace because it's part of my journey and it's part of my story. So
right. I have a lot of respect. My sister had her first baby at 18 and it was not planned.
It's hard.
It's hard, but the fact of the matter is that she kept the baby. She didn't give it up for adoption or anything. She kept the baby and raised him herself. And my sister's older than I am. So he's 50 now. He's had a pretty good life and he's done really well. And, it is hard. And she was single mom for a while. And it's hard raising these kids and it's hard when you're young raising them, but it's important. And I think that most kids want to be with their biological parents. So.
Yeah. And I think it's part of her story, right? Like people connect to stories, which is why authenticity is so important, right? Like if you have something real that someone can connect to, you don't really have to sell them anything because they're already relating with you on a real level. So
Right. So to look at you, the successful woman at iHeart, gorgeous, and to think that you have
oh,
think that you had struggles in your life. I mean, I think other people say, well, if she could struggle through that, maybe I can struggle through what I'm doing too.
definitely.
Right.
We can all struggle together.
As we do.
And
So-
learn, right? And learn.
Right. So should we do Kenya's roundtable?
Oh, God, I'm honored. I'm honored. Sure. Let's start with Marcella. What do you think about authenticity?
What do I think about authenticity? You and I did not speak about this prior to this conversation, but I was 17. So that's why when I had mentioned about, my grandson before, I'm going on number 5. It just so happened that, makes you seem older to others, but you're really not. You're actually have an opportunity to embrace multiple generations and have this very distinct impact. Like my impact with them is so much different than the other set of grandparents.
Mhm.
The other set of grandparents are retired and they're in the easy chair and they're accessible. And I'm out running around doing
Yeah.
things and showing them a different side of what life can be and what life will be, going down the road. So the authenticity part is huge. And it is, to your point, extremely relatable. And I too was very much closed-lipped about it for many years because I thought that it kind of like added a layer of either having made a mistake, error in judgment, or people are trying to figure out how old you are and they put you at a space where you are not.
Mhm.
So there were lots of reasons as to why I didn't. But during the pandemic, nope, it changed all of that because every moment in time, even though it was, bless them as precious, it was like on radar as being precious. It just magnified the precious part.
Yeah. So you're a glamour.
Correct.
And a good looking one. Yeah, no, but to your point, like that's like people resonate with things that are real and people who are not perfect. Right. And I always believe that God uses the imperfect people to confound the wise. So I'm definitely in the imperfect category because, we all go through stuff. Right. So thank you for sharing that and being so transparent. Tim, what about you?
Authenticity is only everything, right? So, my best-selling book is The Power of Breaking Fear. In order to be authentic, you got to understand your own vulnerabilities. So, and the fear goes with several different core topics that I've come up with. But one of the second books I wrote was Be Yourself, Sell Anything. Why would I write Be Yourself, Sell Anything? Be yourself. What a crazy concept, right? And I think you nailed it when you said, people want authenticity. They want the realness. They don't want the fakeness. They don't want the celebrities, all these different things that were just bombed with polarization of this person and that, and we have to be this certain way. And even doing Zoom events in the last couple of years with some corporations, I went into more of the vulnerabilities of fear of change, fear of comparison, fear of judgment, fear of failure, all these different things. And then you get that authentic piece. And then, you start to realize that, hey, I'm not so different. Other people feel the same way. And if I feel this way, I can achieve certain things that maybe somebody else has. So authenticity really does bridge the gap between building relationships that are very sustainable, for now and in the future.
Very good. Very good. And what about you, Kerry?
So I think you guys are right. Authenticity is absolutely key. I have been a part of 3 different consumer brands throughout my career. Lululemon Athletica, D Pet Hotels, which was one of the most luxurious dog hotels in New York City. And then now G.A.N.G.S.T.E.R, which is my allergen-friendly baking mix company. And in all 3, what I would say both for the success of me and for the success of the brand, it had to be authentic. It had to resonate not only with the people out there, but also with me in order for me to be able to impact each of those brands in my own way, but then also for those brands to be successful to their customers. So absolutely, I think the currency concept is a really neat one because I think it's very true in these times.
Mm-hmm. Well said. Thank you. And I'm going to mess your name up. Sarisa?
Risha.
Risha.
Yes.
Oh,
Thank you.
okay. Thank you for correcting me. And what about you? How do you feel about authenticity?
Sure. I think it's such a core and such an important part of what all of us should be mindful of, and all of you've made such wonderful points about that. So to me, authenticity really goes back to I when I think about what I have done as a product and what I have, it goes back to thinking about my grandmother, and if you think about maybe probably 20 or 30 years ago, if you talk to your grandparents or great grandparents, you can see how there's an unfiltered communication with them because they're really being true to their self, right? I mean, there's absolutely nothing that they think about. So I feel like that is really pure authenticity, is because that they're able to just speak their mind and just be who they are and not be worried about being judged by everyone around them, right? So, but I think over time, because of a lot of the social media and a lot of exposure to what have you may, people have, it's just become the need to be somebody else and not the real you. So I think everybody made wonderful points, that just not having the fear of not showing your true self and being confident, being true, that in itself is so important. And I think that in itself says a lot about who you are. So you don't need anything else beyond that to stay true and to actually sell, whatever it is that you're, if whatever product you may have, or just being who you are and finding the true people who really appreciate for who you are.
Thank you.
That's really great. I want to just add one thing to that. So my daughter closed her Instagram account because my daughter's 26. One of her beautiful young friends was on Instagram and decided she needed to Photoshop herself because she didn't look good enough. And my daughter was just like, that's crazy. So anyway, with that, we're going to have to go to break now. But when we come back, we will be interviewing Tim S. Marshall, who is a business strategist, life coach, speaker, and also Marcella Gencarelli, who is a client engagement and community outreach strategist. And they have a lot of really interesting things to say. So stay tuned. So you're listening to Passage to Profit, Road to Entrepreneurship with Kenya Gibson, sitting in for Richard Gearhart. And I'm Elizabeth Gearhart. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Passage to Profit. I'm Kenya Gibson, sitting in for Richard Gearhart. I'm here with Elizabeth, and we're going to just jump into this conversation with our two very special guests today. Tim S. Marshall, who I mentioned earlier on, is a motivational speaker. He's a life coach. He's an entrepreneur. He's an author. He's written 7 books in 2 years. I haven't written 1 book yet, so I'm way behind. But he's big on personal growth, entrepreneurship, helping young professionals, and built a company that was recognized by Inc. magazine for 4 years in a row as one of the fastest growing companies in America. So excited to talk to him. We're also joined today by Marcella Gencarelli, who is a client engagement and community outreach strategist. And we're excited to talk to her and Tim today. So welcome to the show.
Yes. So why don't we start with you, Tim? Why don't you jump right in and tell us what you do?
I'm not sure.
Well, that was authentic. It's like the rest of us sitting here.
Yeah,
what are we doing here?
It changes moment by moment. So, but yeah, I've gone from just real quick, my background is breaking fear. So I take on the hardest things and I try to figure out what I'm made out of. And if I can break it, then somebody else can. So what I do is I help entrepreneurs either start, scale, build a business. I do events on the power of breaking fear, personally and professionally. I am a business strategist, numerically and stuff like that. So, what I do and what I say isn't based on the fact of reading a bunch of books. I do it. I go on the streets and I take on the biggest risks that are calculated. And I think I can't do it. And I lose all kinds of sleep. And then I turn down the, shades and I start to freak out, and then I do it anyway. And I try to do it as fast as possible. So I teach people how to build something immediately And I always, when I'm interviewed or go to universities, there's two real key concepts, and that's activity and speed. And what's between those two is self-doubt. So when you go after something, whether it's starting a business, sales, whatever it is, speaking, you do it and you keep doing it over and over and over again until you build up your skill set that literally you are the company. You are the walking example of what you're trying to exceed. And that's what I teach.
That is so profound, because the self-doubt piece is so strong in so many of us. And you're right. I mean, I've experienced that in my own life many times. Why am I not getting where I want? It's because of self-doubt, right?
Mhm.
So what's one of the things that you've done that's been a real challenge for you recently?
Recently, I've taken on, I helped somebody start a company about 7 years ago after I sold my company. I built a tech company when the market crashed in 2008. Didn't borrow any money, didn't use any of my money. And I was like, oh my God, is this possible? I could start a company with no capital whatsoever, even though I had some savings, but I launched it. And then, it turned into being one of the fastest growing companies recognized by Inc. magazine 4 years in a row. And then what I've done is help people do the same thing, even through COVID. So I work with companies right now that have either been kind of stuck or, or they're in a situation right now where they need to expand and scale. So I go in and I give them exactly what the skill set they need to have, which is teach, delegate, and inspect. So I teach people on how to storytell compelling messages, how to be yourself and sell anything. And a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with, going from a solopreneur to an entrepreneur. Well, you have to be that teacher. And that's what I do. And I help them. And, my big thing is it's not about my success. It's, how successful are the people around me? That's it. So I've got, it is what it is. There's no ego. I've got like a 99% success ratio because I've done it all. So I teach them, all the different things I've done. And then when people back off and they're like, I can't do it, because I've done it, I can say, well, this is exactly what you need to do.
Excellent.
And it's just like you said, the self-doubt is a big, big thing, especially, with their cell phones. I tell a lot of entrepreneurs, salespeople, anybody, utilize your cell phone for research. You could, like when I had my company, all I used was my cell phone, but I used it for all the right reasons. I wasn't caught up with the Facebooks and the Instagrams and the bullying and all the different things, because that will dilute your brain. So I really go after qualitative stuff versus quantitative. And, I help people launch, which, whatever they think they can achieve into what they can achieve so that they can teach it to other people.
Mhm.
That's good. I just want to go back to fear for a second, because I think there's a lot of preconceived things when it comes to fear. So I actually look at fear as a gift, and it's a sign that you're probably moving in the right direction. So what are some tactical things that people can use to leverage fear as a positive, as opposed to a negative?
What do you control? What do you not control? Make a list. If you have control over it and you're scared of doing it, but meanwhile, you keep thinking about it. I want to do it, but you're not doing it. That's a positive fear. That you're 100% right. You nailed it. Because people do get caught up into, well, fear is bad. Fear is a really good motivator. And, through this course of time of teaching people how to break fears, the main thing that I've learned over so many years is a lot of people don't like to admit they're in fear. That's the biggest problem. And I think with COVID and times have changed, and, you brought up authenticity earlier, people are more open-minded now. So it's, what do you control? What do you not control? Awareness, do awareness checks. Where are you right now in your life? Where do you want to be? Do you have an open mind? Are you open to change? Are you willing to take the actions? If you're willing to take the actions, then you have to practice those actions to the point that you can teach other people how to achieve.
Wow. That's really awesome. So you have private clients now. Do you also give presentations? I mean, I know everything's Zoom, but hopefully someday you'll be back to live presentations.
I do. I have live speaking events coming up.
Oh, you do?
So
Great.
yeah. I've got all kinds of different things going on. So,
And you
but
take
yeah.
private clients too?
I do. More so with, corporate clients, speaking events. I did a lot of individual coaching with COVID, especially with entrepreneurs and solopreneurs and stuff like that, just to help them get through. And I've done all kinds of interviews all over the world. But just, trying to give as much as what I've learned over time of taking on fear, because in order to break fear, you have to be in fear, right? People are like, well, you're fearless. I'm like, no, I'm not actually. No, I'm in fear. I just have to break it. So, but yeah, I take on, individual clients, but now it's starting to go more into the speaking events again and consulting. But I was really busy during COVID and stuff. And I think there is, I wouldn't say hope, but there's more awareness and open-mindedness, and going back to our topic of authenticity, it's really kind of opened up the doors for me at least, to get more involved.
I think we were all a little afraid during COVID.
Yeah.
Kenya, do you have something?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, I think as I'm getting older, right, I used to have a lot of anxiety about certain situations, and I'm just learning how to take advantage of those moments. I actually had a moment of fear this morning, and I'm not going to get into too much detail because it's work related, but when I felt the anxiety of having to approach a particular situation, I knew that was a sign that I had to do it on the spot, right? So can you just share a little bit about what some of those signs look like when you know that it's a particular situation that it's necessary for you to move forward in?
I would say, for me personally, right? So if I'm called to speak and there's, 5 people in line, I'm going to be the first one to do it. I don't want to think about it too much. I'm going to do it. There's a difference between logic and emotion. So I'm going to go after what is logical first, right? And then the emotion follows it. But if you go into just the emotional standpoint, then all of a sudden you might back up and become immobile. So you look at what is logical about this situation, because we're emotional beings, right? So when we're running just off of emotions, that can be a real red flag. So it's what you said, how you approach the situation, and then you say, well, I need to do it, and then do it. Face your fears head on, if it's logical.
Yeah. And it's funny, you make a good point. I saw this Instagram post yesterday, and it was about how you will regret in your 70s the chance or the moment that you didn't take to pursue something. And it's easier to live with approaching something rather than the regret of not fulfilling that. And that just resonated with me so much. I was like, God, that's my biggest fear, is like, what if I would have tried to do that and it could have actually happened, right?
100%. And I just say this real thing, in the beginning part of The Power of Breaking Fear in my book, I talk about, if you had your own glass globe, snow globe, how would you design it? If you shook it, would all the pieces fall over into a heap of disarray? Because you have control over those pieces. And as time goes on, for me, I'm getting older now. I'm like, holy cow, what's going on here? But I don't live in a life of regret, because I've taken on my challenges. And over time, as you said, you get into your 60s, 70s, 80s, you look back, why didn't I do it? Everybody can do it. Anybody can do it. I hear these interviews sometimes and they're like, well, not everybody's built to be an entrepreneur. Not everybody's this. And I'm like, that's not true at all. Everybody's built based on if they take it head on.
Mm-hmm. And why not you?
Yeah.
Why not you?
Well, and I think we should bring Marcella in here, right? We've got 5 more minutes for this segment, then we'll take a break and we'll come back with Tim. So let's bring Marcella in for 5 minutes and come back with her too. So Marcella, can you please explain to people what you mean by client engagement and community outreach, and why every business needs to have that, whether we're afraid to do it or not?
Absolutely. But one of the things I want to dovetail, if it's okay, on Tim's piece about fear, because Elizabeth, you were part of this with me back in the beginning stages of COVID.
Oh,
when
my.
Everything in terms of client engagement and community outreach for what was considered the norm stopped. and you had to
Right.
say, how do I break through this fear? And I'll give you some tactics as to how I work through that. And Elizabeth was part of this. She watches. We worked together during this, along with some other really fabulous folks that I had worked with. Yeah, you had no choice. So I put together a plan in my mind. It gave myself a deadline. I said, you have 5 days to figure this out. Knew nothing about technology. I am not a technology guru, not by any stretch of the imagination. Literally was my little people in my life. They told me, they said, we'll show you how to use the iPad and how to start Zoom. And that was how I started, with the power of connections. It were those that I was connected to, part of community engagement and client engagement, to launch the Zoom, because I could not from my employer. We had to use WebEx only, and I wasn't set up for that yet. So in my mind, all I did was see my career taking a nosedive. I was just like, that's it. I'm done. I'm over, but I'm not going to let that happen. So through the power of community engagement, client engagement, authenticity, the whole 9 yards, those that I had worked with over the course of years used their Zoom, created the marketing materials, because we weren't ready to do that either, for 3 months, and launched the Zoom. And we became sponsors, which you sponsor other things during the course of years. So that was nothing new, nothing that we hadn't done before. So we continued with client engagement, chamber activities, lunch and learns, right away, right out the gate, because all I kept thinking was, I can't think about what was, can't think about what's going to be, have to be in the present, have to work from now and break through the fear that all this falls apart. That's not an option. And failure wasn't an option. So I think that kind of like covers all of that, because it also talks about client engagement, community outreach, and all of the above, and how that all ties together with authenticity and Tim's power breaking fear. I mean, I reached out to Tim on LinkedIn during that time, about a year or two, and he answered me. And I remember our first conversation was about a year and a half ago. He did respond to a LinkedIn inquiry, and he was in his car, pulled over, and he gave some thought as to all the things I was doing. And I remember what he said. He goes, so I'm doing this, huh? And I said, oh, yes, you are. And I had a breakthrough fear to say, to get him to say yes. So that, I thought, was just power breaking fear before I actually knew what that term meant.
Well, and I wanted to ask you though, for you and I talked about this, for a small business, you're working for a little bit bigger business, but for a small business, you still need community outreach and client engagement. So how does a small business do that?
Get involved where you are. Be consistent. If it's a chamber that you're getting involved in, join every committee, or at least a committee that you can show up for. And never, ever go into it thinking I'm going to get something, because you go in giving, you will get. You just receive. It's that whole cycle and circle of life component. And I will tell you, from all of those years of having done that, even as a small business owner, there was a time that my former husband and I had 40 employees. We became involved in the community to where our business was. We sponsored baseball teams, football teams. We used to host a parade in town during the holiday. We'd have a parade and they'd close the street down. So we'd have the high school band was supportive and came out to play. So people looked at us as always go givers, not takers.
Good.
So that was just the theme. And I carried that over into corporate after that experience. And it works like magic. If you really want to know, is it magic? It is magic, and it does work, but you have to be consistent. You have to show up, and you can't go in expecting to get unless you're willing to give. It's the whole giving piece.
So Kenya, do you have one last comment or question before we go to our break?
I just want to say that's really good advice. And I just think about entrepreneurship now, and like how that whole everything's changed because of COVID, right? And everything's kind of shifted for a lot of like entrepreneurs and startups especially, and wanted to know, just like resource wise, what is available out there. So say you're a startup, say you're an entrepreneur, and things have kind of shifted for you since the pandemic. Like, what resources are available for you to kind of do what you're giving advice to do?
Well, I will tell you, and I'll always tell everybody the power of chambers of commerce. Doesn't matter how big or how small they are. They connect the business community to the consumer, as well as B2B, because not all businesses are business to consumer. Some are B2B, and you have that opportunity to connect on all levels. Also, community organizations, such as Kiwanis, Rotary clubs, like anything having to do with your community, to where you would have visibility to connect. Those are resources, although they're not considered quote unquote only a business resource like a chamber of commerce is. Those are resources where people are supportive of those that are part of that group. So it becomes an allyship.
Excellent. Well, thank you. We have to go to break, but we'll be back with more from Tim S. Marshall and Marcella Gencarelli after this break. There's a lot more for us to talk about. So I think we're hitting at some of the cores of being an entrepreneur. So listeners, you are listening to Passage to Profit, Road to Entrepreneurship with Kenya Gibson, sitting in for Richard Gearhart. I'm Elizabeth Gearhart. We'll be right back.
And welcome back to Passage to Profit. Just been sitting here having a great conversation with Tim S. Marshall and Marcella Gencarelli, and getting a lot of information and tips and advice about fear and how to leverage fear and how to grow your business and how to connect to the community. So it's been an amazing, amazing interaction with the both of you. And I kind of just wanted to pop it back over to Elizabeth to see if there's anything else that you feel like we missed.
Well, I just wanted to comment. Marcella talked about going out in the community and being visible. And Tim is doing the same thing now, too. He's going out and giving presentations because he's got a lot of value to add to people. I met Marcella probably more than 10 years ago. She came to a women's event that I had at Gearhart Law, and we stayed in touch and became friends over those 10 years. And those kinds of relationships are important if you're in a business and in the community and an entrepreneur, because as Marcella noted, you become part of this community and the community helps each other and people know who you are. And they'll refer clients, or if you start something new, they'll help you, or they'll give you advice that you need at certain points along the way. So I thought that was very important. I think we should go back a little bit to Tim. So Tim, it says here, you turn weakness into strength, fear into speed, and self-doubt into power fast. So I love that. Who does your marketing? I'm just kidding. But what are some of the techniques that you use with people, or could you give us like maybe a little bit of an outtake from one of the presentations that you give when you're asked to speak on this topic?
Well, I'll back up, even to what Marcella said. One of the main things you can do that is absolutely crucial is to give. The more you give, just like Marcella said, the more you get. And we've heard the terms, it's not what you know, it's who you know, but it's really a combination of both. We can be these, the experts and brainiacs and scientific minds and whatever it may be. But what use does it have unless you leverage it into relationships? Because once you leverage that into relationships, and then you use the word referral, right? You want to build a business fast, do what's right, give more, expect less, you will get referred. And, one relationship can turn into 6,000 customers in less than 5 years. I mean, that just from a company standpoint, business companies. So the advice I always give is, give more, practice your communication skills, put yourself into another person's shoes, fear no judgment. If you're doing good things, you don't have to worry about bad things. Is there such a thing as failure? No, there's no such thing as failure. It's just a learning curve. If you get a 40% on a test, yeah, you might get an F, but you still learn 40% of it. Maybe people don't agree with that, but you still, learn portions of it. And as somebody that had a 7th grade education when I was 20, I had to start over from scratch and figure out how in the world am I going to get a college credit. So my biggest advice is always practice what you think about the most that you want to achieve or be like, and then give yourself, whether it's communication, whether it's helping somebody, even hiring people or building a company. I could say I all day long. What does that matter? But when I bring people on and I care more about them and their families, right? What's going to happen to them? And then that all goes into building that nucleus, and then people feel that, customers feel that.
I think you're right.
100%.
Yeah. I mean, one thing that Richard always worries about with the law firm, because of course it's kind of hard running a law firm, and we made it through COVID. Luckily, we were doing remote work before, and people during downtimes do want to start businesses. So they do need trademarks and patents and copyrights. But Tim, to your point, Richard has said to me, I can't even tell you how many times, look at all the people that make their living from our law firm, or his law firm really, but he calls it ours. But look at all the people that are supporting families because we're able to pay them because of the way I'm running this law firm. So to him, that is probably one of the most important things, is to be able to take care of other people and to give them opportunities and make sure that they're taken care of with the law firm, and not just employees. I mean, that's certainly where we're at, but to your point too, his clients. I mean, we at the law firm, we love the clients because they're starting new businesses. Everybody's happy. I mean, they might get disgruntled every once in a while about something, but everybody's excited and smart and happy. And they're coming to Gearhart Law to get the intellectual property to protect their new businesses. And it's just such a joy to work with these people and to see the entrepreneurship in this country and abroad, because we get clients all over the world. But I really think you're right to think of it that way.
Yeah, and just from the outside and what you just said, I mean, I can say right now, he's a good person.
Yeah. Yes.
Because when people really do worry about, and it's not just like in fear, it's just, but yeah, you take that responsibility on, you're accountable for that. What are you giving them so that they can give to their families or their life or their career, or whatever it is? And that snowballs into something beautiful.
Right.
And, it's, we've heard about stepping over people and on people. No. And chase things. No. What can you give to make a difference in order to not only achieve, the results you want, but more importantly, what other people are going to achieve?
And don't you think part of the authenticity is that giving, that, for instance, if somebody comes to the law firm and let's say they even have a lot of money or whatever, we're not going to sell them 5 or 10 patents just because we can, right? We're going to sit down with them and see exactly what they need and what would benefit their business. And maybe they don't even get a patent. Maybe they just end up with some other kind of intellectual property. But I think part of the authenticity is not trying to sell people stuff they don't need, right?
Huge. And there's relationships that, I went from, whatever it is, school to sales, and turned into the black belt sales guy, right? But there's a lot of customers I never even sold, but they referred me to other customers because I was so upfront, or maybe they didn't go with me, but they're like, man, you're so like, just your communication skills, you do it right. And let me help you out with this. So yeah, and from the fear perspective of me, dabbling, in the companies or speaking or branding or patents or books, audibles, all kinds of different things. I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I've had people sell me all kinds of different things. And, I feel like I lived in a plastic bubble until I went out in the speaking world, and I was like, wow, that's not what I thought it was.
I'll tell you, there is one person that I know for sure on this call who is really good at seeing through all the inauthenticity. And that would be our dear friend Kenya. She'll cut to the chase, right, Kenya? What helps you see if somebody's trying to pull a con job on you or sell you something you don't want?
To be honest with you, I always pray about people, right, that come across my path. And I just ask God to just show me their intentions early on so I don't waste a lot of time. Because I lead from my heart a lot of times. And I think everybody is a good person. And my husband tells me all the time, Kenya, everybody's not Good. You have to stop giving people the benefit of the doubt. But I'm like, but I want to believe that there's good in people because I think there is. But really, that's the secret sauce, is just like asking for you to have a full, authentic scope to see people for what they are, how they're moving, how their intentions are. And I'm telling you, God shows me people right away. And sometimes I'm like, no, I don't want to believe that. And he's like, yep, that's it. And I'm like, oh, I guess. But I always give people a chance, though. Even if I see something that's not the greatest, I'm very gracious because I want grace extended to me because I'm not perfect either. But, you know, I'm really good at seeing the forest through the trees, as they say. Yeah.
You know who else has a really good spidey sense is Marcella.
Mm.
So, and maybe it's just because she and I usually agree. I don't know, but Marcella can really has a clear lens. She's looking through a very clear lens when she looks at people, I think. But she's always nice. She's always the sweetest person you'd ever want to run across.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. Well, I always found it best to try to deal with like adversity and those who come into your path to try to just sell you. So well, thank you so much for being so thoughtful. May I get back to you? And that's it, cuts it right off.
Yeah.
But
Cut to the chase.
one of the things I live for is giving referrals, and I'll never provide you with a referral that's not qualified at the point of the time I know I'm giving the referral. And Elizabeth knows this. Knows this as well. And I've never sold. I've never and Elizabeth knows this too. I never come with the whole selling piece. I'll lead with an opportunity for you to meet someone else. So on the referral side, to keep referrals as qualified referrals, always to look at the person that you're referring to for their higher good, as well as the person that you're referring for their higher good as well. And then to always think about how can we all expand our world just a little more? That's what brought us here today, as to inviting Tim, to speak, with Elizabeth and with you too as well, Kenya. So there's a lot to be said for that. So thank you for the compliment, Elizabeth.
Oh, sure. I love people. I love the friends that I've made. And you know what, as far as this whole perfection thing, I blew that long ago. So I don't want any friends that are perfect, quite honestly, because we're
good around the imperfect people, right? Right.
100%.
I do want to say something too, just about Richard and Elizabeth before we close out and we go to the next break. I mean, they are really the greatest example of the law of reciprocity when it comes to just giving onto people and creating opportunities. I will tell you, 5 years ago, when this radio show started, I mean, this was like a vision that we kind of put out there, and it's just blown up into this thing that I don't even think we even imagined this, right, Elizabeth? It was just an idea that we had over champagne, and here we are today. And it's the result of them using this platform to give everyone an opportunity to showcase their business, showcase their expertise, and giving people an opportunity to flourish. And that is what the show was built on. So I just wanted to say thank you to them, because, it could just be the two of them sitting up here and talking to 30 markets by themselves, but they use this as an opportunity to help other people have a voice in a space. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Kenya. And Kenya was instrumental in the show, and she was instrumental in getting us syndicated too. So I didn't even know what the word syndication meant when we started.
I don't know what it means either. I feel like
you're in more than
you're in a lot of places, I guess, right?
Yeah, but Kenya was instrumental in this. Well, thank you, Kenya, for those kind words. But I honestly think it's a lot more interesting show if we have more people on it. And I love talking to the people, but talking is one thing I do really well, but we have to go to break right now. So I have to quit talking. So this is Passage to Profit with Kenya Gibson, sitting in for Richard Gearhart. And I'm Elizabeth Gearhart. Stay tuned. We have 2 incredible products coming up with the owners of the companies, and you'll really want to hear about this. We'll be right back. Welcome back, listeners, to Passage to Profit, Road to Entrepreneurship with Kenya Gibson, sitting in for Richard Gearhart. I'm Elizabeth Gearhart. We've been talking to Tim S. Marshall and Marcella Gencarelli about all sorts of things that entrepreneurs face and how to use their fear and their personality and their authenticity to move their businesses forward. It's really an interesting discussion. And if you missed it, of course, it'll be on our podcast tomorrow. But right now, it's time for Kenya Gibson to present her power move. Kenya, who is it?
Well, thank you, Elizabeth. So for Power Move today, we're going to talk about CEO and entrepreneur Jessica Hernandez, who is the founder of Joyfully. So Jessica didn't have any connections in the industry. She had no business background, but she loved art and she only had a vision of what a startup could look like. She built Joyfully from scratch by perfecting these steps: designing products, creating great content, and finding wholesale buyers who could affordably carry her product, which is dresses. And she's using her brand to empower women and girls, with proceeds from the dresses going towards Women International, which is an organization dedicated to providing economic support, social awareness for female survivors of war. So she is our power move for today.
Wow, she's a saint.
Mhm.
Wow, good for her. Yeah, it's wonderful to see people doing great things like that in the world. So
Yeah.
good. So I guess we should move on to my startup. So for those of you who haven't heard this spiel before, those of you who have, you don't need to listen, but I have a video directory for small businesses online. I've been going through many different iterations, and I just came up with a very exciting idea and a very exciting way to describe it, but I'm not ready to reveal it to the world yet. So because I'm not ready to launch yet. So I need to get my website done before I can do any more real work on this. And I'm starting my website work now. The website is not going to be structured the way any current website is structured. So we're doing it from scratch, and it's going to take a few months to do. Once that website is done, then I may come knocking on Tim's door. Because, and Marcella has been interested in this project with me from day one. She's been a wonderful, strong influence, saying, yes, I think this is great. I think you should do it. I want to help. And so we're thinking about what it's going to look like after the website's done and we start really doing the soft launch and getting things ready for when we actually do the hard launch, maybe in a year. So because I have to get a lot of background work done first. So that's where I am. But now I want to move on to somebody who has already launched, has amazing products, and looks amazing too. So if Kerry, if I eat your products, will I look like you?
Thank you for the compliment. I appreciate it.
Sign us up. Sign us up.
I'm going to introduce Kerry Brown with eatgangster.com. Tell us what you have, Kerry.
Thank you for having me on the show, by the way. I'm excited to be here. So my co-founder and I, Heather McDonough, and I launched in 2020. We launched an allergen-friendly baking mix company. And, we did it just basically out of our kitchen at the time, just kind of trying to create products that she and I both would enjoy, and felt that there might be some interest there. But, we launched with three SKUs. And over the course of the last 3 years, we now have 10 different SKUs and have been able to grow tremendously. And we're super excited about it. Bottom line, my company's name is G.A.N.G.S.T.E.R. And Gangster is actually an acronym for what our mixes are all about. So they're grain-free, almond and peanut free, nightshade free, gluten-free, etc. So they're for people who have food allergies and sensitivities, for people who are struggling with autoimmune disease and are on a strict restrictive diet or that kind of thing. Typically, they're able to enjoy our mixes. So just trying to create ways for people to be able to have joy again, even though there may be so much restriction in their diet.
That's excellent. I went through something a few years ago, and I had to do like the food mop thing with this nutritionist. So this would probably fit into that. So food mop is where they take almost everything out of your diet and let you eat a few things and then gradually put things back in. But these are refined sugar-free, which is important to me because I feel really sick if I eat a lot of sugar. And I feel like these are really important products right now. The more we learn about our biochemistry and our bodies, the more we realize these products can really help people, right?
I think you're right. I mean, at this point, there's over 24 million people with autoimmune disease of some kind. That may be something as drastic as MS. I personally have type 1 diabetes and also thyroid challenges. My co-founder has psoriatic arthritis. So it kind of runs the gamut. Even doctors are now even speaking to Alzheimer's and autism also being connected into the autoimmune world. So so many people are struggling with those things. And what many doctors are finding is that while you may still need medicines or that kind of thing for your situation, like I do, I need insulin. Food as medicine has become a mega trend in when it comes to autoimmune disease. And you know, our products all fall within taking out, as you said, eliminating all the major inflammatory foods. And so with our products, you don't have to worry about those sorts of inflammatory foods.
I love that term you use, food as medicine, right? Because there was a time where people used to live a lot longer, right? And they used to eat a lot healthier, right? And I feel like the food we have now that we have access to, it's quick, it's easy, and it's crap. And there's like really no nutritional value, right? So I love what you're doing in this space because food is the biggest component to everything that we're putting in our body, right? Nutrient wise. I mean, it's crucial. It's crucial. And a lot of people don't know what to eat, right? So I'm glad that you're creating solutions in this space.
I think you're dead on. And, you know, our company will be successful. I know it will be, but regardless of my business, I think what's important for us to focus on is getting the word out about the fact that people can at least help control some of their health problems simply by eating in a certain way. And every body is so different. Mine is different from yours. So you really have to dig in and start to learn, okay, why do I have joint pain? Why am I having trouble with anxiety? Or what? Kind of dig in a little bit more. It may very simply be a gluten intolerance or it's something simple like that. So, you know, one of our missions is just to get the word out about how food can affect your daily life and your health.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's not only that. I want to say this, and then I want to go to Tim and Marcella, but it tastes good. So long ago, when people started health food, it tasted like cardboard, right? But your mixes are delicious. I made the banana bread. I did add walnuts because I love walnuts, but it was good. And so finding healthy food that's good for you, that tastes good, has been a struggle. But I think you're helping solve that problem for people too.
Thank you. Our mission statement is we create foods that bring freedom and joy back to those on restorative diets, whatever that is. And so that freedom and joy is such a component. As far as ingredients go, we use tiger nut flour. Most people have not heard of it, but it's been used for thousands of years. It's a root vegetable. So instead of it being a grain, it's a tuber, basically. It's a root veggie. And so that's what we use as the base of our mixes.
Excellent. Marcella, do you have a question or comment?
Well, a little before we started, Kerry did share her packaging and her logo, and it's eye-catching. And it kind of led you to
Marcella.
Yes, please, because it was great.
Thanks, girl.
So how did you come to that design?
We actually had a blast doing it. You know, our kind of a bigger theme of our business is the concept of beauty from ashes. I can start to cry about these things, both for myself and also for our customers, but probably 95% of our customers, they do struggle with MS. They have type 1 diabetes, they have Crohn's, colitis, etc. They are struggling every day, every minute of the day with whatever they've been dealt with, right? And so the packaging has black and white sketched flowers, kind of tattoo-like, but then we filled in color in there because we believe that so much beauty can come out of ashes. And, you know, we see our product and our business that way, but also feel that way about our own health and also the health of our customers, that there is hope there, that you don't have to just struggle constantly. You can also find joy in your life through food, even if there are certain things that are affecting your health.
That's wonderful. Tim, I know you have thoughts on this.
I do. I think it's great, you know, from the standpoint, you know, I physically work out and I box. And a lot of times I'm like, what's good? What's not good? I'm confused. What do I eat? Right? We are what we eat, right? So, but what I do like is eat gangster, right? What does that mean? That's a compelling word. So it makes you curious. So you pull somebody in, and then you have the due diligence and evidence, and you back it up. Well, this is why you should, eat our product or buy our product or whatever it is. And then all of a sudden you build up that evidence. And then same thing with entrepreneurship or anything we do. When you start building up that evidence and you have other things that are selling it for you, as opposed to just like for me to say, oh, I'm great. Well, no, I'm not. It's what evidence do I have? It's the same concept of, eat gangster, just the taglines, the evidence, boom. You don't have to worry about it. You don't have to think about it. This is where you're at, and this is where you could be if you buy our product. So I like it.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
That's a good point. I was just going to say, I recently lost, I was a significant amount of weight. During COVID, I was struggling a lot with my weight. And what's hard for me is that I'm a pretty avid, person who works out, right? Like I'm a trainer, right? So I have a lot of accountability for, the women that come and take my classes. But what I was struggling with on the food side wasn't resonating on the workout side. And I decided to go plant-based. And when I addressed what was going on spiritually with myself and what was going on with my relationship with food, then I started to see the shift, right? And I'll tell you, like, just adjusting things in my diet and finding out how my body reacts to food was like a game changer for me. And it got me unstuck. So now I feel like I'm in a place where my food is matching up with my workouts and I'm starting to get the results that I want, but I'm more so in a healthier space, mind, body, and spirit. And that really, narrows it down to what I'm putting in my body. So I just admire what you're doing to help people.
I love hearing what you say too, because yes, it's about the physical body, but it's so much more than that, because our gut health affects our brain health too, and certainly our spiritual health. So to kind of, for you to be looking at it holistically like that is, it's such a smart way to go about it.
Well, great. So unfortunately, we're out of time for this segment, but where can people, so your website is eatgangster.com, but where can people find your products?
Sure. So we're available on our website, eatgangster.com. And then also we sell on Amazon, so you can get them there. We are in a handful, and I mean a small handful of retail stores, and particularly functional medicine doctor offices, things like that, who really speak to gut health and that sort of thing. You can also buy them there if they're in your neighborhood. So Amazon and online though is the main source.
Excellent. Thank you. That was Kerry Brown with Eat Gangster. So now we're going on to our next presenter, who is going to help us drink more water, which we all need to do. Her name is Sirisha Munagala, and she has Tezahn, Tezahn.com. So Sirisha, please tell us all about your product and how you came up with it.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. So it looks like, everyone has actually set the stage for me to, talk about my product, to have touched upon such important topics about food, about health, topics such as, as you said, you are what you eat. That is so apt to, or rather the core of the Ayurvedic teachings. And Ayurveda is the oldest, almost 5,000-year-old science, which and the core of the teaching is all about how food makes such a huge impact to who you are and what you do every day. So my product is essentially a cold infusion, and it's again touches the other topic about immunity, because it's a drink that can actually help build your immunity. And the way I'd like to think about it goes back to how what my grandmother's lifestyle, that was my inspiration to come up with this product. And I've been a yogi for more than 15 years. and also a certified yoga instructor. What I've always noticed was that people attending yoga classes always carry a bottle of water with them. So I started to think that, hey, if people who go to the gyms or do workout have so many options out there to help, replenish and have like these protein shakes or protein bars, why is it that there is nothing on similar lines for people who do yoga? Because there are so many aspects of Ayurveda. People who don't know about yoga and Ayurveda together, they're considered as sister sciences. And while yoga is the practice, Ayurveda is really the science and the medicine behind it. So so I started to think that there has to be a product that really resonates and that helps with especially people who are doing yoga. So I went back to, and I was lucky to have been, that I grew up in a household where there was so much of natural, everything about, healthy eating, balanced eating, what's available in nature, that, kind of a lifestyle is what I've grown up with. So that was very, I guess that played a big part of when I was thinking through about what can be a good product that could actually help people, or that could help somebody who's who's doing yoga, or people in the yoga community. And that's how I came up with Tezahn. But honestly, when I was trying to come up with the product, it was not so much about, okay, I want to do a business or I want to do a product out there. It was more about, hey, what can be a good addition to the yoga practice that can add to the benefits that somebody gets from a yoga practice.
So wait, can you just tell us what's in your water that makes it
Yes.
special?
Sure. So it's a cold infusion which is made with pure herbs and spices, and there is no additives, no preservatives, no sugar. So all of it is natural, just pure herbs and spices. It's in a tea bag, and it infuses all the herbs and spices into your water. And it's each bag can infuse. You can refill your water bottle, and it goes in any water bottle. It needn't be any specific water bottle. It could be regular room temperature. It's not like a tea where you need to warm up the water. So and you just need to and each bag can actually infuse at least 2 to 3 times, meaning you can refill your water bottle 2 to 3 times, and you can still enjoy all the benefits, the natural benefits that come from the ingredients. So the key ingredients, pretty much all of them are very high in in antioxidants, very high when it comes to helping you with your digestive system, your overall immunity boosters. It can reduce inflammation. Each ingredients, they come in, currently we have in 3 flavors. First one is called tulsi and spices. Tulsi is also known, majority of the most people are not very familiar with it, but it's also called as holy basil. It's in fact widely used in Ayurveda and in India. Second flavor is mint and turmeric. I know turmeric is catching up a lot these days because of its incredible medicinal properties. And the third flavor is ginger and jaggery.
Those sound really great. So yeah, tell us about jaggery. Then I want to have Kenya ask a question. Okay.
Yes. So jaggery is actually a superfood, has a lot of excellent, properties that can help with your digestion, and it can help you actually control your sugar. In fact, people with diabetes eat a little bit of jaggery every single day, because it helps them really control your immunity, your hormone levels, and your sugar levels. Back in Yeah,
excellent.
So
we need to break in here a little bit. So
sure, go ahead.
Yeah. So Kenya, do you have a question or comment?
Yeah, no, I love that you're so passionate about your product. And water is like super important. And it seems like, there's a good connection between like herbalistic treatment, like herbs, and the benefits of like what they can do for your body. So you talked a little bit about the diabetes and how people can control that. How often should someone be supplementing their diet or their food plan with water or beverages like this?
So you can never go wrong with, drinking a lot of water, right? I mean, you keep yourself hydrated throughout the day. So it's always recommended that you carry a bottle of water, and, you keep drinking as often as you can, throughout the day. I always, I always have my water bottle next to me, uh, refilled with, but a good advice would be never drink very cold water. Always try to keep at a room temperature or a little warm water, which is highly recommended in terms of helping you with your overall digestion or overall, good for your health.
Okay, Marcella, do you have a question?
Well, it's nice to see something like this being offered in terms of yoga and items, a drink that's easy to consume with antioxidant properties, because during yoga, a lot of times your body is releasing toxins during the stretches and the poses that you hold. So I find this very, very interesting product, extremely interesting.
Thank you. And this is something for everybody, not just for people who are doing yoga, right? Everybody can benefit with making your drink a little bit more interesting. And if it's healthier, it's a good healthy alternative, right? There's no sugar or nothing else that you're getting from that, but just pure antioxidants.
Right. So Tim, what do you think?
I think that it's an open playing field, right? So we've been conditioned to have certain things over time, like diet soda or whatever it is, right? And now we're at a place where we're looking at certain products, whether it's food or beverages, and then if we have these new concepts, these entrepreneurs coming out, we're actually putting ourselves into a point, even where where I agree with Kenya, most of the food out there is not good, or some of the liquids. So I think if, somebody from an entrepreneurship side of things, an entrepreneurship judge, nail your message, right? Learn to say it in less than 3 minutes. People buy off of fear or don't buy off of fear. Which column does that go in? Right?
Ooh, I love that.
That's how you answer it, and that's how you nail it.
Oh, that's excellent. So yeah, that was a great piece of marketing advice. I'm going to use that for my business.
Everyone should use it.
I know. So unfortunately, we're coming to the end of our time for this segment, but where can people find your product, Sirisha?
You can find my product on my website at Tezahn.com. We also have contact information there, but at this moment, we're only available on our website.
Well, that's okay. So it's Tezahn.com.
Correct.
So, okay. So it sounds like you're starting your marketing journey now. So have fun with that. So
thank you very much.
We're going to go to a quick break. You're listening to Passage to Profit, Road to Entrepreneurship with Kenya Gibson sitting in for Richard Gearhart. I'm Elizabeth Gearhart. We had our guests Tim S. Marshall and Marcella Gencarelli. If you missed any of this, our podcast is out tomorrow. And I think we had some really great, deep, interesting discussions for entrepreneurs that you don't normally hear on any shows. So we'll be right back. Welcome back to Passage to Profit, Road to Entrepreneurship with Kenya Gibson sitting in for Richard Gearhart. I'm Elizabeth Gearhart. We had a phenomenal show today with phenomenal people. I love the people that come on the show. Don't you, Kenya?
I do. It's always a good group.
I always learn so much. So first we had Tim S. Marshall, who you can find at timsmarshall.com. And it sounds a little simple. Okay, pushing through your fears to get to where you need to be. But when you really dig into it with Tim, I want to go see him speak, because he has got such insights into how entrepreneurs can succeed. Right, Kenya?
I agree.
And then we had Marcella Gencarelli, and she also had incredible insights. So she specializes in client engagement and community outreach strategies, and just what she's been able to do with that. You don't really think about it a lot, but what she has been able to do to that and make it into a whole thing has been amazing. And you can find her on LinkedIn. It's Marcella Gencarelli, Marcella Gencarelli. And if you just type in Marcella G, she'll probably come up a lot of places, because she does a lot of outreach. And then we had Kerry Brown with Eat Gangster. It's eatgangster.com. And she told us what Gangster stands for. And she has these wonderful food mixes for people that have food sensitivities. So you can feel like you're eating like a normal person and they taste really good, but they're not going to make you sick. And she's on Amazon and she's selling from her website. So I tasted her banana bread. She sent me the mix. I made it. It's very, very good, I thought. So
Yeah, I think her stuff is for everybody, right? Like we
Yeah.
all should be looking at our food and what we're putting in our bodies, right? So even if you don't have an allergy or you even think you do, or you need to be eating better, you need to be checking out her line for sure.
absolutely. And then we had Sirisha Munagala with Tezahn. So it's Tezahn.com. So it's something that you can put in your water, but it's a special blend of herbs and spices to help your immune system, help you recover from exercise, just make you feel better as you sip your water throughout the day. So it's an easy way to add a little health boost to your day and make your water taste better too. So that was our show for today. Now it's time for Noah's retrospective. Noah Fleischman is our producer here at Passage to Profit, and he just has a way of putting his best memories in perspective.
If you went to grammar school when I did, there's a book you probably loved and never forgot. It was a book called Danny Dunn and the Homework Machine. It was written all the way back in the 50s, but in my time it was actually still relevant. Wow, a computer where you could actually ask the question into the machine and it would just answer it for you. You hear that, Siri? Oh, Siri's not here. She's with my wife right now, on her smartphone. I still actually use one of these little flipper devices. Well, I can get away with it for now. But you know something? I really couldn't see myself having Siri or any kind of a device where you talk into something every time you need an answer. I actually like to be curious. I use search engines, but I also love to go to the library. I love being around the books. Curiosity is a beautiful thing. I think it was one of the Greek philosophers that actually said that the quest for knowledge, curiosity, is in a lot of ways more valuable than knowledge itself. I can't seem to remember which philosopher it was that actually said that, but I could probably ask Siri when she and my wife get home.
And now we're on to our group discussion. So I guess I'll go through that. Everybody gets to answer the question. Right now we're in just early November. I'm in the Northeast. Kenya's in the Northeast. Marcella's in the Northeast. And it's beautiful here. Oh my gosh, the trees are unbelievable. So I wanted to ask everybody, what is your favorite autumn activity? So Tim, let's start with you.
Well, I'm in South Florida, so I don't know if there's really an autumn here. And I don't know if it's an activity, but I have a recliner that I like to lean back, and then I like to watch University of Michigan play football.
Oh, that's an autumn activity.
That's my autumn activity.
The football games are fun.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Yeah. What about you, Marcella?
I'm going to tell you, it's fall ball with the family. There's fall baseball and fall soccer. So that goes through the entire fall, and it's always a lot of fun. Look forward to it every year.
Great. What about you, Kerry?
I have a 4.5-year-old, and my favorite thing these days is just baking with her. And regardless of my business, I just love making cookies with her and decorating them and just having fun with her that way.
Where do you live?
We're in Charleston, South Carolina.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I loved cooking with my kids when they were little too. So much fun. And what about you, Sirisha?
Yeah, I have a 4-year-old as well. So he keeps me very busy. So lots of activities with my son.
Yeah. And where do you live?
I'm in Sacramento, California.
Oh, okay. So yeah, so kids are always fun in the fall. All the excitement of going back to school and Halloween and Thanksgiving and Christmas is coming. Yeah, it's always fun. So,
Yes.
so Kenya, what's your favorite fall activity?
I feel like leather jackets and like walking around looking at leaves. If there's any, if I could wear a leather jacket all year round, which we can in New York, this is my favorite time of year. So those things.
Yeah, me too. One thing I was looking forward to all summer, and we did it, and we do it every single year, is Richard and I, and when the kids were little, we took them with us, but they have grown up and moved away. We still do it, is we go apple picking. And I'll tell you, I will just lay down, I know I look weird, but I'll lay down on the grass and just smell the air with all the apples and the leaves changing. And there's always a lot of little kids running around. It's wonderful. And I do love the changing leaves too. So at this point, we are out of time, but thank you all. This has been an amazing show. And I'm going to hand the wrap up over to Kenya.
I'll try not to mess it up. All right, here we go. Well, thank you for listening to Passage to Profit. It was a great show today. We just want to thank a lot of the people behind the scenes who help with this show. So Alicia Morrissey, who is our show coordinator, Noah Fleischman, who is our producer, Mark Wilson, who is our syndication manager, and all the people that listen to Passage to Profit. Thank you for tuning in. We appreciate you.
We'll see you next week with another show.